forged on the gridiron in September. Perfected in the magic of March. For the fans who love the crunch of the pads, prefer a dunk, and expect nothing but the best. It's Bigger Ten. Here's Steve Dace.
Greetings and welcome to our bowl extravaganza, bowl blowout, bowl preview, whatever you want to call it, episode of Bigger Ten. It's our final episode of 2023. Next time we talk to you, it'll be 2024. So let me get the cheesy line out of the way now. See you next year. I'm Steve Dace. He's my co-host, never partner.
That was incredibly cringy.
Was it?
And I know you were trying to make it not cringy.
No, I was trying to make it very cringy. That is one of my big things, is the see you next year guy at work. I just want to think.
I'll remember that tomorrow.
By the way, his name's Aaron McIntyre. Didn't even let me get his name out. Good to see you, Aaron. How are you?
Doing well. How about yourself? I'm
doing okay. We've got 9 Big Ten bowl games to preview and go over. And in a lot of these games, This afternoon, I went out and grabbed myself some lunch before you and I recorded, and I was listening to a handicapping podcast that was doing some previews of the first week of bowl games, which start this weekend, by the way. And it was so funny. They were listing off all the transfers in all these games and who's not playing. I'm actually kind of more interested now. The amount of players that we have no idea who they are, never seen before, that are going to play in a lot of these bowl games. Mm-hmm. Almost kind of makes it a little bit more interesting to me because, a lot of these guys are looking at this as their shot, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But this is, I look through this slate of bowl games for Big Ten teams, and for the most part, I see a lot of 50-50 toss-ups. And so I'm not sure what their record will be. We'll talk about that in our Twitter poll results. I'm not sure what the overall record will be, but I see a lot of toss-ups here just because of that variability that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And because even if these teams were playing at full roster strength, I still would see a lot of toss-ups.
I think this is true across the board with the whole bowl season. I'm not so sure that if you didn't just flip a coin, heads the favorite, tails the underdog, for all, 41 bowl games, mm-hmm. I'm not so sure that you would not come up with the exact same point spread record you would if you actually analyze this, given the amount of variance that we're talking about. All right, well, let's get to it. We're going to do these in chronological order. For those of you that went to public school, chronological means, never mind. We're just going to do them in the order in which the games are played. All right, let's start. The very first game, it's the Las Vegas Bowl. And as we said last week, we're going to find out truly how many Northwestern football fans there are. Because if you're not going to travel with the team to this bowl game, you're just not traveling with the team. They take on Utah, which has had, under Kyle Whittingham, an incredible bowl record, one of the best in college football. As of now, the Utes are a touchdown favorite, 6 points. Total in the game, 41.5. We have not heard about a bunch of opt-outs for Northwestern. It looks like Utah is going to be down to its third-string quarterback. What do you think, Aaron?
I think that Northwestern actually has the motivational edge here. I think, after Brown won the Coach of the Year in the Big Ten, they're going to be reared and ready to go to prove that even though, they played in the Big Ten West, their record is not just a product of that. I think they're going to come in there really, really highly motivated. As you said, they're playing maybe the third-string quarterback on the Utah Utes team. And Utah defensively this year has not been, at least not up to what they have been the past couple of years, which has been very, very good. Still going to be a tough hill to climb for Northwestern, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was a close ball game for a while.
Well, I agree that the motivational factor here is clearly with the Wildcats for sure. If you're Utah, you've gone from back-to-back undisputed Pac-12 championships to a pre-Christmas bowl. But I also think a ton more Utah fans are going to be there to make it more of a home game. I think that mitigates it to some extent. I think the intangibles here favor Northwestern, but I just hard for me to go against Kyle Whittingham, given that bowl record that I just referenced. So I'll take Utah, but again, I think it's a coin flip game, man. I do.
What do you think of the graphic there? Scale of 1 to 10. How cool is that graphic? I'm at like a 5.
I'm going to give it a 5. It's not cringe. It's not cool. It's okay.
Yeah.
For Vegas, it could have been a lot more cringe, or it could have been a lot more flamboyant. It's kind of,
middle of the
Midwestern-y.
road.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we have the Quick Lane Bowl, and I love this graphic. This is phenomenal, actually. Much cooler than the game itself ever is, and this one in particular. But Minnesota and Bowling Green, who have played in the regular season a couple of times in recent years, and Bowling Green even went into Minneapolis and won one of those games, a huge underdog. The Gophers with a losing record, but they are here in Detroit as I guess we'll call it a reward, because we didn't have enough bowl teams, and they were the #1 academic progress rate team this year. Day after Christmas in beautiful, scenic, no place else you'd rather be, downtown Detroit. The Gophers taking on the mighty Falcons of Bowling Green. They're a 4.5-point favorite with a total of 38.5.
I'll hit the snooze button on December 26th, I think, maybe. Goodness gracious.
First one to 17 wins?
Yeah. I mean, the graphic is cool. I like the motor there up by whoever number 23 is. But this game is not going to be nearly as cool as that. There is no scenario in a perfect world. Again, we don't live in a perfect world. But Minnesota would be a middle-class Big Ten team, right? It should be a middle-class Big Ten team.
Go back and look at what they've done under Jerry Kill and now PJ Fleck or Glenn Mason even, sure.
Especially in this day and age where the group of 5 conferences year or season after season, off-season after off-season are getting rated of their talent. Is there any scenario where a middle-class Big Ten team should ever be just a 4.5-point favorite against a MAC team?
No.
Yeah. So that's a little odd to me. So if I were betting this game, I probably won't because it's gross. If I were betting this game, I would throw like $5 or $10 on Bowling Green money line.
I like that play quite a bit. This was a Minnesota team with a lot of young guys. The quarterbacks in the transfer portal. I think Bowling Green is the more motivated team here. A lot of these guys played on a team that went to Minneapolis a couple of years ago and beat Minnesota. I think I'd probably play the Bowling Green here to getting outside of a field goal. There's a backdoor cover option there as well. And I would give that program a solid 9. I think that cover shots, that logo is really cool.
Yep, I'd give it 8 out of 10.
All right. Next, the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. This game, Thursday, December 28th in the afternoon. And you want to talk about a contrast here. I remember several years ago, Miami had to play in this game against the Badgers of Wisconsin and just got ran out of the stadium. All right. Just had no interest being in the cold there post-Christmas. You're probably leaving home maybe Christmas Eve to prep for the game. So you're spending the holidays there too. And I kind of get the vibe. Again, this is going to be a home game for Rutgers. A lot of their fans are going to be there at Yankee Stadium. Outdoors, on grass, in the cold. I'll tell you what, if you could tell me right now that it's 35 degrees or colder, I'm absolutely taking Rutgers money line in this game. Absolutely. If it's 45 degrees, then maybe I just take Rutgers plus the points. But I think the home field, the motivation, the conditions, everything is on the side of the Scarlet Knights here. And by the way, Miami down to their third-string quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke is in the transfer portal. Actually, he just announced where he's going to go, and the school escapes me. And then the guy who replaced him, remember, he got benched a month ago. The guy that replaced him is out for the year. He got injured against Florida State. So I like Rutgers. I think they will view this as a reward, and they will have the home field.
Yep, I pretty much agree with that. I mean, I don't know what case you can make for Miami going that Tyler Van Dyke. I just, let's see, set for fresh start with the Wisconsin Badgers. I knew it was a Big Ten West team, or formerly known as the Big Ten West team. I don't know what angle you really have here with Miami. Everything you just mentioned is heavily favoring Rutgers, which is why maybe just as a contrarian play, you go with Miami, but I don't know really where their motivation is. As you said, all of those players going to have to leave early. They're going to have a sad Christmas. What is it? The song? They're going to have a blue Christmas without their families. Rutgers, not so much. They can kind of stick around the area. I don't know. I would probably lay off this game, but I agree. Pretty much every single motivational and every single advantage coming into the game probably lies with Rutgers.
I mean, I think Rutgers has the better quarterback. Yeah. Defenses are pretty even.
Did you hear Monungai is coming back?
I did not. So now you're telling me they got the better running back too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of thinking I might be maybe going Rutgers money line in this bad boy here. And for the logo,
3.
Yeah, I mean,
2 or 3.
it's not that it's bad, but if you're going to give me the Manhattan skyline, I kind of need more than that. You know what I'm saying? Like
a little more of the actual skyline instead of the sky.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm going to give it a 4. I like the concept. The execution could have used some enhancement.
This one is at a 1 for me.
Yeah, I don't like this one at all, man. And it has nothing to do with Ohio State. It's just, I love the cowboy hat on the Buckeye helmet.
That's cool.
I do like that. Yeah.
It's a little monochromatic.
Yeah, I agree. Nice use of the term. I like that.
Thanks.
So this is a game where the point spread has crossed over. It opened up the Buckeyes favored outside of a field goal. Then people started realizing, well, a lot of these guys probably aren't going to play, and the quarterback's in the transfer portal. And now Missouri, if I would have gone back and told you in August that Ohio State was going to play Missouri in a bowl game and Missouri was going to be favored, you would have told me what?
A lot of Ohio State injuries.
Yes. You'd have told me literally put down the crack pipe. Yeah. But here we are. And it's a New Year's 6 game. It's the first New Year's 6 game. And you have to wonder where Ohio State is at mentally, emotionally, in terms of focus. I doubt Marvin Harrison is playing. Emeka Egbuka has announced he is going to play. Much of that, Denzel Burks has not made a decision yet, I don't think. But much of that Ohio State defensive front will, everybody from Missouri is going to play. They've had the best season they've had since Chase Daniels was the quarterback there. So now you're going back, 10, 15 years. This is a big game for them, a chance to get a statement win against one of the blue blood programs, dominant elite programs in the sport. I don't know how many Ohio State fans are going to want to travel down, because this also would mean with the early New Year's 6 game, it's kind of meaningless from an Ohio State standpoint. Also means you're kind of leaving the day after Christmas too to make it for the game. I don't know. This just strikes me as this is a true reward for Missouri. It is a sentencing for Ohio State.
Yeah.
And so even though I still think even maybe with the guys they have out, they still might be the most overall talented team. I don't think Devin Brown's a good quarterback. I mean, if he couldn't supplant Kyle McCord the entire year, I don't know why he suddenly is good. I mean, I just think Missouri wants this game a lot more. And with Brady, Cook has the far superior quarterback. I think they're going to win.
Yeah, this is one of 3 Big Ten bowl games that I'm actually interested in, and will probably make a concerted effort to watch in its entirety. Because of what you said there, even with all of those starters either out or opting out or in the transfer portal, Ohio State is still probably the overall more talented team, which means that this could be a pretty interesting game. You've got a talented team that's untested against a pretty tested team in Missouri. Pretty tested team in Missouri who wants to be there more but is not as talented. I don't know. I think that could be an entertaining game. I wouldn't take Missouri 2.5 here, but if Ohio State has their first scripted series and they go up 7-0 or something like that, or even if they go up 10-0, I might live bet Missouri $5 or $10 if I can get them at plus money.
There you go. All right, and for the logo here,
I'm at a 1.
I mean, you have that beautiful Ohio State helmet. It just should have been better. I love the cowboy. What if it was just the cowboy hat on the Buckeye helmet?
That would be better.
Like a simplistic kind of a thing?
Yep.
I agree. I'm going to give it a 2 because it should have been at least like a 7.
Yeah.
Given what you had to work with here. All right. Next, we go to the Penn State versus Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl, the Mercedes-Benz Dome there in downtown ATL. Penn State doing what they typically do most years under James Franklin, not beat Michigan or Ohio State, beat everybody else and get to a New Year's 6 bowl. I believe this is an opportunity for them to get to their 5th 11-win season under James Franklin, which is hard to do, Aaron, when you've only won one Big Ten championship at that exact same time frame. Yeah. Because they do a lot what I just said. They don't beat Michigan and Ohio State and then kind of beat everybody else. This would also make Penn State the first program ever to win all of the New Year's 6 bowl games in its history. No one else has done this. Penn State would become the first if they win this game against Ole Miss. We know Chop Robinson's not going to play. I could see maybe 1 or 2 other, top draft picks for Penn State not playing. For Ole Miss, Jackson Dart kind of banged up. Is he going to play? But remember, the backup is Spencer Sanders, who won a lot of games at Oklahoma State. So I don't know what the drop-off is there at all. What'll be fascinating here for Penn State is next year they're going to have 2 brand new coordinators. Mm-hmm. And I liked both the hires they made. I just don't know that they make much of an impact here for this bowl game. I think Penn State overall has the better team. That hook makes me nervous. So I'd probably stay away, but since we got to make a pick, I'll go ahead and say Penn State 24, Ole Miss 20, and they cover by half a point.
I think this is actually a pretty big game for Penn State. I mean, it is the Peach Bowl. It's a New Year's Six game. It should be a big game. But if you can get some confidence going in that offense, and especially Drew Allar in a big-time spot like this, I think that could pay dividends moving into the offseason. Because you've seen them in big-time spots this year. They had 2 opportunities and really just kind of flatlined when you needed them the most. So I think they really need that shot. You thought maybe that was last year in the Rose Bowl against Utah.
Right.
But they really need that shot of adrenaline going into the offseason again. So I think this is a big game for Penn State. I've been burned when I've trusted Penn State this year. I've been burned when I've gone against them. So I'm going to flip a coin here live on the air, and I'll take, if I was betting this game, I would take Ole Miss plus 3.5. Just because I think they do have the dogs on offense to keep up with Penn State should they get it going and really challenge Penn State the whole game. So I would take Ole Miss because of that hook. But if it was 3, I would maybe take I would probably just lay off of it.
All right, and for the logo,
I love this one, actually.
I do too. It's kind of unique.
Looks like it's kind of popping up out of the aperture on top of Mercedes-Benz.
I'll give it a 6.
Stadium.
It's just out of uniqueness, if nothing else.
Yeah. I'm giving it 7.5.
Oh, wow. You liked it a lot more than I did. All right, now we have the Music City Bowl in Nashville, also on December the 30th. This is Maryland against Auburn. The Tigers come in here 6-6 after one of the all-time game blowings of a game ever, 4th and 31 against Alabama in the Iron Bowl, and they give up a 31-yard touchdown pass and lose. Maryland kind of doing what Maryland does. They win under Mike Locksley anyway. They win their 7 games. Talia Tagovailoa ends his career as the all-time leading passer in the Big Ten. Maryland's top defensive player, arguably, is in the transfer portal right now, so he's not going to be there. Auburn seems to me like the team, though, that this was their you better get him year, with Hugh Freeze, because he knows what he's doing. We know that, all right? And I think if they're motivated, they'll clearly have more fans to make the drive to Nashville up from Alabama. If they're motivated, I think they win the football game, and I think they will be. So Auburn, I'll lay the 2.5. I'll take the Tigers with a total of 49.5 there in Nashville.
I will be hammering the 2.5 on Auburn. No disrespect to Maryland whatsoever. No disrespect to Talia Tagovailoa. Not at all. But if you're Auburn and you're a program of that stature and you're Hugh Freeze, a coach who we know he can coach some games, you cannot end the season 31-10 against New Mexico State. New Mexico State is good, but they're still New Mexico State. Blown. What was it? You said 4th and goal from the 31. Yeah. So this number 31 keeps popping up. I think it was 31-10 against New Mexico State that they lost, or maybe it was 28-10.
Yeah.
And then you cannot lose to a middle-class Big Ten team in the bowl game. I think Hugh Freeze is going to figure out a way to motivate the heck out of these guys, and I think they should easily beat Maryland. I think this will be it could be one of the most lopsided Big Ten bowl games, actually.
And for the logo, it's okay. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not awful. I'll give it a 5.
Relying too much on computer animated or computer generated graphics there. I mean, I like the what's the name of that street that I'm thinking of right now?
Oh,
Broadway.
Yes.
Isn't that Broadway?
Yeah.
In Nashville.
Yeah.
I like that picture, but I think you've got too many computer-generated graphics there, so I'm going 4 out of 10.
Okay. Next game that we're going to see, now we're to New Year's Day, and now the artist formerly known as the Outback, now known as the ReliaQuest Bowl. Wisconsin will take on LSU, likely without Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels, who's moving on to the NFL. But given who his backup is, I don't know that that's going to be much solace for the Badgers because LSU maybe had the deepest quarterback room with those two guys in college football this year. I think LSU will take this absolutely seriously. A lot of these guys are coming back. That quarterback is coming back, so a chance for them to kick off the new year. This is one of the biggest point spreads of any of the bowls this year. The Tigers are favored by 11 over the Badgers with a total of 55.5. I mean, if Jaden Daniels played, that's an easy over to me. But he's not going to play. I still think Wisconsin is in trouble in this matchup. I'm going to take LSU here, probably somewhere around 34-17, something like that kind of a game. I think LSU wins, and I think they win comfortably. I'd lay the points.
Yeah, I would as well. I don't really know if you're Wisconsin, if you're a Wisconsin fan. I'm not sure what you're hanging your hat on going into this type of matchup, because I think basically across the board, LSU is as good or better than you at pretty much every matchup. Maybe I'm forgetting one glaring one. Maybe at the quarterback position, they're back up, but I don't know about that. So I would say this Wisconsin's got a long way to go, in my opinion, in my estimation, if they can go anywhere under this new scheme, which you better hope that they can under Luke Fickell. So I don't really know much more to say. 11's still a big number in a bowl game, but then again, if you look at it a little bit closer and see kind of the disparity across the board, it makes more sense.
Over under on the amount of Wisconsin players that would start for LSU. I'm going to put it, so we've got 22 starting positions.
1.5.
I'm going to say 6.
6? Oh, under.
I think it's probably under. I think there's a few players on Wisconsin's defense that are better. I mean, that's why LSU, with Jaden Daniels having a Lamar Jackson season,
Still
went 9-3.
lost.
That defense was terrible,
Yeah.
but yeah.
The graphic is like a 2 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a picture of the Tampa Bay,
Coast,
beach
man.
front. I mean, it's just, okay. Yeah, you could have done a lot more. I'm going to give it a 2. It's kind of anemic.
Yeah.
Next, the Citrus Bowl, maybe the most coveted non-New Year's Six bowl bid, right there with like the Alamo Bowl for best destinations. They're in Orlando on Monday, January the 1st as well. The Iowa, you want to talk about a contrast in styles. Boy, this is it. The Iowa Hawkeyes against the Tennessee Volunteers. These two have played in a bowl game many, 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 many years ago. Iowa, of course, one of the most famous football games in Iowa history occurred in a Citrus Bowl when, Aaron, you were just a little tyke.
I will never forget that. I'm still pissed off. My brother Tom, so we did this thing. I didn't mean to go off into
No,
this
it's good. Go ahead.
rampage, but my brother Tom and some of my cousins, we had bingo with one side of the family on New Year's Day, and of course that interfered with listening or watching the game. My brother Tom and some of my cousins, unbeknownst to me, went out to the car to listen to the end of the game. They didn't tell me that they were going out there, and they got to hear Gary Dolphin's call of the game, and they came back in and told me what had happened back in 2003 when Drew Tate hit Holloway. For
2004.
Oh, was that 2004?
Yep, Tate to Warren Holloway.
2003. Tate to Holloway for a last-second win against Nick Saban and the LSU Tigers, and I'm still pissed off about that. Anyway, go ahead.
I remember well because your predecessor here on this show, John Miller, was down there. I think he was either at the game or on the field covering that game for Hawkeye Nation, and I remember him calling me right after that. Just the amount of euphoria and watching that live. But I would be shocked if Iowa completes a pass that long in this game. Doesn't mean they can't win, but we're talking about one of the worst, maybe the worst offense ever to win 10 games in a power conference in the history of college football against the fastest style of offense in contemporary college football. The chess match between Phil Parker and Josh Heupel here is going to be fascinating to watch this play out. I think put the graphic back up there if you don't mind. I think in Tennessee, I thought there were 7. And then look at this.
They're up to 8 or so now.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Okay. But then look at this total. That has to be the lowest total on a Tennessee game since like the 70s or something. All right. So Iowa versus Tennessee here. I'm gonna take the Vols. I just think after a while, the amount of plays, and keep in mind that heat, even if it's only like 70, 75 degrees, that is not heat you're used to playing in this time of year if you're a team from Iowa. And I think the amount of plays that Phil Parker's defense could be forced to face against Tennessee, with Iowa getting so many 3-and-outs on offense, because the Tennessee defense is not bad. I'm going to lay the 7 points with Tennessee here. May take a while, but I think in the second half, I think the amount of plays ends up being the ruin of Iowa, and I'm going to lay the 7 here with the Vols at the Citrus Bowl. And, I got to tell you, given everything at your disposal, It's a great uniform game. The orange versus the black and gold. You're in Orlando.
Yeah, it's
and the
pretty,
best you got is a giant Hawkeye over some palm trees. I'm going to give that like a 3.
Yeah. I don't even know where that is. Where's that supposed to be? I don't know.
That doesn't say Orlando to you, does it?
No.
It just says,
It says
warm
kind of
climate. Yeah.
random pool with palm trees. So if I'm Iowa, if you get to Joe Milton early and often, start to affect his confidence a little bit. This is a guy who has struggled in the past, although he had almost 65% completion percentage this year, which as an Iowa fan, I'm like, isn't that against the rules? Like, you're not allowed to complete that many
Must be
passes.
cheating, yes.
He has had accuracy issues in the past. So I don't know if you can get to him early and often, you might be able to set up some easy opportunities for yourself. But again, I come back to, as we were saying in the Big Ten championship game, even if Tennessee repeatedly vomits all over themselves and sets Iowa up with a 10-yard field, a 5-yard field. I've seen this so many times in the past couple of years. Mm-hmm. So many times. I've seen it 5 or 6 times. And 5 or 6 times is a lot of times. A 5-yard field, a 10-yard field, and you couldn't even score a touchdown. Sometimes you couldn't even score a field goal because you got sacked a couple of times. I don't even know if Iowa can take advantage of that. So, yeah, I would say, now, we haven't really gotten much news, and we would have, I would have thought by now, on opt-outs for Tennessee. We would have gotten that news by now. So I don't really think that there's much you can hang your hat on in terms of that either. Iowa's bringing everybody back from the regular season for this bowl game, as far as I'm aware. But so is Tennessee, at least for the most part. So I would say, if it's a scoreless first quarter, if you're betting this game, try to get Tennessee at less than a touchdown, something like that. I think that would be a pretty safe bet.
One thing to watch for Tennessee, I wonder, they've got a young quarterback there that was a big-time recruit last year who's going to take over the reins for Joe Milton next season. With 15 practices to prepare, do they start him instead of Milton? Start looking ahead to next year.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah. And that brings us to our final game. And in this year, it is the biggest of the Big Ten bowl games. And I like how it has no logo. That's awesome.
Yeah, your social media team forgot to put out a graphic.
It's Michigan, the number 1 team in the country. First time the Wolverines have been number 1. Since the 98 Rose Bowl, they went into that game number 1 in the country. A 1.5-point favorite over perennial power, really the team of the era, Nick Saban in Alabama. Total of 45.5. I broke this down a lot on Michigan podcast yesterday. Just to reiterate briefly, then I'm going to hand it over to you. I think Michigan matches up as well as you can hope to match up with an Alabama team at this level in the playoff. The things that Alabama does not do particularly well. And when I say well, we're with the top 4 teams in the country, all right? The margins here are slim, all right? So when we say they don't do them well, meaning it's just not elite, and there might not be a first-round draft pick there, okay? The areas where Alabama has been attacked this year, the defensive tackle position and the linebacker position, and it just so happens that's the style of offense that Michigan wants to play. What stands out to me also is the amount of money here that's been wagered on Alabama, and yet Vegas has not had that line cross over and has stayed pretty one-sided and lopsided in its exposure in favor of the Wolverines here. So I think Michigan is going to win. I think we'll get a healthy J.J. McCarthy that will add the running element that will open up everything else for the Alabama defense. I think it's a 23-20, 24-20 game, right around the total, no matter who wins. But I think it just almost kind of feels like it's Michigan's year. Everything they've overcome, dealt with, everything else, everybody kind of came back for this moment. I'm going to take the Wolverines.
Yeah, I was pretty confident in Alabama up until I saw whoever it was, one of the Michigan podcast listeners, and you addressed it yesterday, bring up what you just said about all of the action being on one side. And I always, in the line not moving at all. And the reason why that catches my eyes is because the guys in Vegas, I always defer to them. They're not always right, but I always defer to them in moments like this because they're more right than they are wrong, which is better than basically everybody else can say, which is why they build palaces in Vegas. The reason, and I'll reiterate this too, to me, Ohio State versus Michigan, that was a very closely contested game. Ohio State had two what turned to be very costly turnovers. Alabama, to me, is just Ohio State, which with a much more dangerous quarterback. So that's why I have pause if I'm Michigan. A much more dangerous on the ground and maybe even through the air quarterback and some receivers that are starting to flash as of late. You also can't just play the ground and pound game against Alabama the way you have against Penn State, the way you did against even Iowa, as good as that defense is. So that's still something that gives me pause, but I'm not quite as certain or confident in Alabama as I was after seeing that factoid about all the money being on one side and the line not moving whatsoever. So I don't know. I will still probably take Alabama, fade Jim Harbaugh's bowl prep, but I'm not as confident.
And I don't have a counter to
that as I was.
Yeah, there is that, and I don't have a counter to the Jim Harbaugh bowl prep thing. Has been a thing for 10 years. I don't have a counter for that because it is what it is. By the way, I love that logo. I'm gonna give that one a 10. I mean, you can make that whatever you want it to be. Just imagine it. Whatever you can project, you can identify that logo as anything you want. I love it. It's very spirit of the age. Well done. The actual logo for the Rose Bowl is gorgeous, but you're right. Michigan's media team did not come up with their own unique graphic because,
maybe they can't. Maybe the Rose Bowl doesn't let them.
Oh, I'm sure Michigan lacks the resources to pull something like that off. We'll come back. We'll play Would You Rather here in a moment. All right, Aaron, let's play some Would You Rather. Would you rather keep the college football playoff format we are going to next year, the 12-team format, or expand the playoff to 32 teams and eliminate the rest of the bowl games? And so a lot of those bowl games get incorporated into this format, and we have a 32-team postseason every year, and that's it.
Sure, why not? That's more meaningful than what it is now. I mean, really. What are we're just playing for most of the game. Even some of the New Year's Six. Yeah, they're prestigious, but still we're just playing for pride. I mean, that's good. That's all in good, but it doesn't really mean anything. Nobody goes to the state fair in Iowa and wants to touch and look at the Cheez-It. Nothing goes together quite like a nice orange and Cheez-It crackers.
Right.
Nobody goes to the Iowa State Fair and wants to look at the Cheez-It trophy, whatever that is. They want to go see the big bowl. They want to go see the pig. Well, they can't see the pig this next year because officials suck. They want to see the Cy-Hawk trophy, as weird as that trophy is sometimes. Nobody cares about the bowl games. This would make people care a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And yes, the viewership is still really good, even though people don't care, as I just said. This would make people care even more. It would dial it up to 11. It would also mean, wouldn't it, that we'd get an extra month of football, something like that, of college football? So yeah, why not?
Okay.
Why 12? It's just an arbitrary number, isn't it?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah. Pretty much everything in college football is arbitrary these days.
Yes, it is.
Would you rather go to a bowl game in Arizona in January or Florida?
Having been to both places recently, I think I'd rather go to Florida. There's just more to do there. And you know me, I'm an amusement park guy, and there's a lot more of those in California than Florida. So I think I'd rather do Florida.
See, I was thinking about that. If I was doing the more to do things in Florida, yeah, Florida's the better place. But if I'm just going there for the bowl game, I don't want everybody. There's
That's true
thousands
too.
of other people.
That's true too. Yeah,
they're going there too. This one's from you.
Okay. Would you rather go to an outdoor bowl game at Yankee Stadium or an indoor bowl game at Ford Field? In other words, where would you rather be spending your Christmas?
Yankee Stadium. I don't want to be out in the cold either for 3 hours watching what might be kind of a meh game. But to be inside and watch your eyeballs melt at what's going to be a terrible game, Yankee Stadium is better for me. And I remember when Iowa played in the Pinstripe Bowl. It's been 5 years ago now, 5-6 years ago. I mean, the turf was just a block of cement.
Yeah.
It was just nasty.
Yep.
So I hope maybe they've fixed those problems. The past few years, it hasn't been that cold in New York City. But yeah, I'd rather go to Yankee Stadium.
New York is the better destination, but I'd rather
sure.
I'd rather be at a game indoors, though.
Yeah.
You know.
I hear you. Would you rather win? This is going to be an easy one. Would you rather win against an otherwise good team riddled with opt-outs or lose to a poor team where their starters play?
I'd always rather win.
Yeah.
You know me. I just schedule scrubs and do blowouts every week. I like winning. I didn't get the last 2 years watching Michigan play these like 3-4 game schedules. I didn't get bored at all.
So in Madden, if you set up your not in Madden, in NCAA football 14, you set up your dynasty as an independent, which I've done before. As an independent, you just schedule scrubs every week.
No, in that case, I schedule great teams, but I just play the game at the lowest level, so I make sure I just win. And then
I'm the opposite.
Yeah,
I schedule the best teams up front and play at the Heisman level.
Yeah, I like winning.
So do I, and I still win.
I'm totally fine just beating up on clearly inferior competition because I just like winning. I'd rather beat inferior competition than risk losing to even competition. So
okay,
I like winning.
Okay,
all right,
that's it.
All right, we'll come back and wrap things up here in a moment. Stay tuned. This week's Twitter poll results. We asked you, what do you think the Big Ten's bowl record will be? Pretty split here. 38% said 5-4. 26% said under 500. That was your vote, Aaron.
Yep.
24% said 6-3. 13% said 7-2. I say I have no idea what it'll be. I don't have a clue.
Probably 6-3, 5-4 would be safe, but I'm going under 500. I mean, you just look back. Let's just WNL this real quick. If you put a gun to your head.
All right.
Loss for Northwestern, 0-1.
Yep.
Let's give Minnesota the win here, even though I picked them. I didn't pick them, but I would say I'd bet on Bowling Green.
All right,
okay, let's give them a win.
All right,
1-1. 2-1.
I like Rutgers, yeah.
2-2 probably.
Yep.
That's a toss-up.
I'm with Penn State, 3-2.
3-2. I'm going.
We both like Auburn.
Yeah, so
3-3.
3-3. 3-4.
We both like LSU, 3-4.
3-5.
3-5.
And then that one to me is a toss-up too, but still you're looking at sub 500.
Yeah, that would be sub 500. 4-5 is our best case scenario combined. Yeah.
There
you
go.
go.
I'm going below 500. That's why.
All right, that brings us to our feedback of the week. Comes courtesy of Puff Hawk. When I noted, hey, we're going to face Dylan Gabriel in the Big Ten next year, he might even be the all Big Ten preseason quarterback, depending on what J.J. McCarthy decides to do. Dylan Gabriel could be the preseason all Big Ten quarterback for Oregon heading into next year. Puff Hawk says he'll also be the highest paid Big Ten quarterback next year. Bet. Absolutely. I mean, the reality is there's more money for Dylan Gabriel to be made as the starting quarterback one more year in college football than there is to be a 4th or 5th or 6th round draft pick and a 3rd string quarterback in the NFL next year. So that's why he's back right there.
Sports better for it, probably, hopefully.
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah. What you're seeing now, though, and I mentioned this to the top, all the opt-outs, where you really see a lot of these opt-outs, the group of 5 teams in their bowl games. I mean, like my teams that are down, all their starters at the skill positions are all in the transfer portal. All those group of 5 guys are now like, this is my chance to move on up, So that's where we are these days. And I think that's why the level of play at the group of 5 is lower than it's been in previous years too. That'll do it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed the full year here on 2023. Unfortunately, we may have to talk at least some basketball when we return. We'll see. Maybe we'll have a team in the national championship game and then we don't. Aaron, you have big plans for the holidays?
Really not too much. Sticking pretty close to home. How about yourself? Other than going to, Pasadena.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to that. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Did I mention I was going to the Rose Bowl recently?
You're going to the Rose Bowl, Steve?
I'm going to the Rose Bowl, so I'm pretty excited about that. But it's always fun to have the family and the kids and everybody over for Christmas. We're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to seeing you again next year. So in the meantime, please like, rate, subscribe, share, follow, 5-star review, whether you're listening on iTunes or you're watching right here on YouTube. Help us to find in the new year more Big Ten fans who have just as poor of taste for programming as you do. And we love that about you. You can also follow us on Twitter at Bigger10 in between episodes as well. For Aaron McIntyre, I'm Steve Dace. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.